Okay, I'm going to do 6.6b because a lot of students struggled with this assignment. The way that this one works is it has 1, 2, 3, 4 images, and if you add another URL to an image here and you click the button, it should add a 5th image, and it should also say number of photos. Instead of 4, it should say 5. Right now it says nothing. So let's see how they tell us to get this done. The first thing it says is look at the input and look at the button on the page. In the HTML, that's the input right here, and that's the button right here. And it says we're going to need to use that input in JavaScript, so let's give it a class called photo name. So right here under input, we can say class equals and then photo name. And then number 2, it says the button needs a class too, so let's call it add button. Okay, so that button class can be add button. And remember, in HTML, there are no spaces on either side of the equal sign. So now it says, now that we have classes for these elements, we're going to turn them into variables. So let's select the add button using document query select, and they tell you to call it add button. So down here, where it says select the add button using a query selector, what they want you to say is let add button equal document query selector, and then for the button, we're going to get the class. What is the class? Add button. So right there, don't forget the period. So now we have the add button. We should be able to uncomment this click handler that they started to write for us. So to uncomment it, you can delete these 2 slashes. You're going to need a semicolon there. Or, I'm going to undo that. I like to select all 3 lines and hit Command / to remove those comment marks. So click the button to add a new photo. What is going to happen? When they click on this button, this error is because I accidentally wrote add button with 2 adds. Okay, so when they click this button, we have to get the URL that they typed right here. So what we need to get is, let's say, let new URL equal, and then we need to do document query selector. And in this case, we want to grab the input, because there's only one input here. We don't really need to use the class, but we don't just want the input. We actually want the value. So what the user typed here, that's what we want. So we use .value. Now, what do we actually want to do with that URL? Well, let's first say console log, because we want to make sure that we actually got the new URL. So what happens if I put this here? I'm going to paste a URL here, and I'm kind of going to cheat. I'm just going to copy the image URL of this cat. I'm going to paste it here. And when I click on new, what's going to happen is it's going to grab that value from inside the input, and it's going to pop it here in the console. So that's blank right now. When I click add new, I can see that I got my new URL. So now what do I need to do? I definitely want the photo to show up on the page. So let's see. There is already some JavaScript here. So there is a for loop, and it goes and gets all of the images, and it says for each URL in this array, which is image URLs, that's this right here, for each one of those, it takes the URL, for example, this one, and it says, hey, I want you to be a string. I want you to concatenate some HTML that begins an image tag, and then the URL for the source of the image, and then the closing triangle bracket. And then in this image container, which is right here, the image container holds all of these things. So in the image container, we want to insert adjacent HTML and insert image. Well, I wonder, could we use that? If I copy this, what I'm going to do here is paste it, and it says for let URL of image URLs, and then it declares the image, and then it inserts adjacent HTML. So what I think I need is those last two parts. I don't really need a for loop because they only entered one URL. So I don't think I need to loop through the whole array. I just need to say image is this plus new URL, because that's the image, that's the URL that they just pasted in here. That's new URL. So we got that, and now this image container, yeah, it's the same container, insert adjacent HTML before end image. I think that's gonna work. Let's try it. If I copy this image address, I paste it here, and I say add new photo, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It did it. Now, how do we get number of photos? Under number of photos, I see there's an empty span. I think we're going to put a number right here. So let's figure out how to do it. Where it says show the number of photos in the gallery, well, let's see. Let photo count equal, and then we're going to use .length. What is the name of the array? The name of the array is image URLs, and so let's say that dot length. Now we know photo count. Let's console log it. We're going to say, hey, I think photo count is 4. That's correct. Because when we added the 5th image, 1, 2, 3, 4, because we've refreshed it, we still have 4 images. But what if we add a new one? If I say add new photo, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's still going to say the number of photos is 4, because even though we put this image on the page, we didn't actually put it into this array. In order to do that, we're going to use push. So in that onClick handler, the last thing we're going to do is say, hey, you know that image URLs array that has all of those URLs? We're going to push something into it. And that something, you guessed it, is that new URL. So after that, maybe we can get this to say 5. Let's see. If I give a new URL right here and I click add new photo, is it going to say 5? Well, we console log the photo count outside that click handler. So it ran at the beginning of our program. I'm going to move it inside the click handler, so this log message will happen when the user clicks on add button. So by moving that console log message right here, I think it's mad here because photo count was created here. So this is a scoping issue. We actually have to put this right here. Okay, that made my error go away because I was trying to use this, but I actually declared it down here. That's not going to work. You got to declare it before you use it. So now let's see if we can add a new URL, and we want this number to say 5. There it is. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 images on the page, and we have 5 images in the array. So the last thing we need to do is grab that span and put some inner HTML into it. And so if we say document query selector, and we say what we want from the document is the span. There's only one, so we don't need to use a class. We want to say document query selector span, and then we want to say, hey, you, there is nothing inside you. I want to assign the inner HTML to photo count. Like that. The last thing I'm going to do is also, I'm going to move that inside the click handler because we are using photo count, and photo count actually gets created inside the click handler. So this also has to happen inside the click handler. Formatting my text with Command I. And now, let's try it again. If I click this button, if I add a URL and click this button, it says 5 here. I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 images here, and we got number of photos 5. Let's do it again. I'm going to use the same URL. I'm going to add a new photo. It says 6. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and number of photos 6. That's it. It's hefty. Uses everything we know, but you can do it.